I think our Dallas County Child Welfare Unit needs to be completely independent from the rest of the state welfare system, that we need a director that is not under the local or the regional office of the state welfare, and needs to be oriented in the direction of protective care and not just general welfare. And all of these people that are in the state welfare system are generally oriented in the direction of welfare and not the protective child care. I say that the Child Welfare Unit, Dallas County Child Welfare Unit, is bound in bureaucracy, and it's making our organization here ineffective, and we're not getting the services that we contracted for in 1965. Our department has deteriorated over the years to a point that I feel like that it was better operated when we, as the county, was running it without the state assistance.
As a philosopher, I'm interested in the ways that man has conceptualized nature. And I feel we've neglected nature, much to our peril, in fact, because having neglected to think about nature in the various ways you could conceptualize it, we then go on to treat nature without a great deal of, let's say, tact. We create an environmental crisis.
Will the establishment of a park in the Big Thicket actually make people think more about the wilderness, or will it just bring tourists and tourist cabins?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question. In the first place, I think that the Big Thicket is a perfect natural schoolhouse. If we want to teach our children about nature and man's dependency on nature, then the Big Thicket is as good a place in the United States as any to do so, and far superior to most. The second point is that they're going to establish in this park a large Big Thicket environmental area. And the purpose of this is to leave the land open for multiple use, some for primitive wilderness, some for lumbering and farming. But the state of Texas is being asked to build recreational areas directly around this environmental area, so that you can bring tourists in to enjoy the Big Thicket, and yet they will be around the outskirts of it, and some areas will be protected.
I think it's great. We're looking forward to it with a great deal of enthusiasm. We think it's going to be to our advantage to start the season against a great team like the Minnesota Vikings. We feel that after you have a great year like we had last year, why it's always very much of a concern of a coach and coaching staff and an organization to make sure that your squad is ready and not fat-headed maybe or complacent about the upcoming season. From this standpoint, I don't think there's any way in the world that we can go into a season with that kind of an attitude, and as a result, it should be good for us, and I think it'll be a great football game.
Are you going to change your strategy in any way in view of the new schedule?
Oh, we might do a few things differently than we did in the Super Bowl game, but we will have seen them play 6 exhibition games, preseason games, just like they will have seen us play 7 prior to that game, and so I'm sure that we'll have to make some adjustments over the game that we played last year in the Super Bowl game.
while we have police officials to make assignments, police officers, that our concern is for all the people in the city of Dallas, and that our officers are trained to perform as police officers in all areas of the city, regardless of the officer's color, or regardless of the neighborhood in which he's assigned.
Chief, what this group is asking, isn't this segregationist in itself?
Well, this is kind of a pointed question. If you're inclined to make that judgment, then it's yours.
Or I'm talking about putting blacks, patrolmen with a total black community, rather than integrating the forces and the community.
Well, you see, you get criticisms from both sides. And if you totally assign Negro officers to Negro communities, then some people would raise the question, why don't you let them be full-fledged police officers and patrol all communities? And then if you assign them the other way, you get the other feedback. So, you know.
Thank you.
This petition was read by the two officers that were involved, and they indicated a desire, after reading the petition, to be moved from their present or then current beat assignments. And they were moved. Had these officers not been inclined to change their beat assignments, in all probability, my answer to these people this morning would have been a different one. I tried to explain to this group that we can't run a police department by committee.
Mr. Lewis, can we look forward to more cutback or curtailment of mail delivery, such as possibly a 5-day delivery in lieu of 6?
I'm afraid that the current postal administration does have this in mind, to cutting back to 5-day-a-week delivery in the rural areas, perhaps cutting back to even a greater extent than that. They've already engaged in many cities in an experiment on only partial delivery on Saturdays to some areas. They already have curtailed the collection service, and perhaps that doesn't mean much to the average person, but if you drop a piece of mail in the corner box or any box, and that mail is not picked up for 24 or 36 hours, it's being curtailed, it's being delayed. And so many of these things have already happened.
This is a emergency shelter where you bring children there and you clean them up and doctor them and immediately placed in the foster home. It's not a home. It was never meant for a home. So if there's 77 people out there, then the child welfare unit is not doing their job.
I don't think LEAD should play any role in politics. There are many people who would like to think that LEAD has played a role in politics, and to a certain extent, possibly it has. My personal thinking is that LEAD should be dedicated to excellence in school board members and should try to draw its support from all economic or racial or geographic sections of town without labels and without politics.
Any specific programs you would like to initiate?
No, absolutely none, other than the search and encouragement of outstanding persons within this community to run and serve on the school board.
Rogers is 34 years old and has 3 children. He's the president of Texas Industries. He says he really doesn't have enough time to be president of LEAD, but he wants it because he thinks he can do a good job. The LEAD membership believes the same thing. For Channel 8 News on the Move, this is Jess Brown in Dallas.
Now, you said some people expressed a concern about the lights and cameras, but you didn't say who they were.
I did go out to the chamber later, and I believe Mr. Tyson has indicated that there was some concern about the manner of the setup of the meeting.
Well, I talked with Mr. Tyson and with Mr. Price just minutes ago. They expressed no feeling about the lights one way or the other, and the reason they hadn't been here was strictly because no people had showed up. The meeting was not ready to get underway. You were the only commissioner who expressed some feeling about the lights. Is there any significance in that?
Well, my comment is, first, you noticed that they weren't here either. That is, the other commissioners. Likewise, the people who were scheduled to come and talk with us weren't here either.
You were the only commissioner who expressed concern about the lights and TV coverage. Is there any significance in that?
I like TV, and the coverage doesn't concern me. I believe that it did influence the people who were standing here. The bright lights are obvious, and I have a feeling that this is probably the reason that they didn't come in.
No, that is not correct. We feel very strongly that we want the news media to bring to the citizens of this community the findings of our committee, so that the citizens of Dallas County will be aware of what is going on. The reason that the meeting did not come off is because we did not wish to have a confrontation with the personnel, the administration really, of the State Department of Public Welfare and end up in indulging in perhaps name-calling or justifying either the committee's findings or the lack of services on the part of the welfare department, and then lose sight of the fact that we are in an important area that pertains to the welfare of this community.
Well, really, we enjoyed our stay here in Dallas very much, and but we have enjoyed great success in Kansas City. We think it's a great city, and of course the fact that we have won consistently and also artistically, and also have done so well at the gate. Everybody knows, I'm sure, that we've sold 70,000 season tickets for next year. We definitely are very, very happy to be in Kansas City.
Any major changes on your football team this next year? Any trades in the making?
Nothing significant at this particular time. We always are looking to ways to help our football team, and if there's a chance that we can do so by making a trade, we'll certainly do so. But right now, I don't really anticipate anything drastically different with our club than existed last year.
My program for next year is to try to attract as many people interested in education to join LEAD as an organization and to work towards the major objective of LEAD, and that is to support the nomination of those members running for the school board who will promote excellence within the Dallas Independent School District. In other words, those people who on the school board have the knowledge, interest, background, and very importantly the time to serve on the school board, and who will not accept anything less than the best education possible for the citizens of Dallas.
Well, the man's name that keeps cropping up when the presidency of LEAD is talked about is Robert Rogers. He's 34 years old and has 3 children. He also has his office in this building. He's the president of Texas Industries.
I've been considering standing for election of LEAD, for the presidency of LEAD, for the last couple of weeks. And I've been considering it very carefully. And the way you phrased your question is one brings up a very important point in my mind, and that is the political nature in which you asked the question. I don't think LEAD should be a political organization. I think it's a group of individuals who are trying to support the nomination of the most outstanding members for the school board. And as such, I think it's rather apolitical, or should be, and that its sole purpose should be excellence in the school system through the support of excellence in school board members. But briefly, if I am elected this evening, I do believe I will say yes.